Hi, it's Jared from Strongroots Farm. Today, we are planting some fruit trees. Come along with us. I'll take you through all the steps, show you some mistakes I've made over the years putting these in, and I'll give you the techniques. It's very simple. People make this way too hard. Stick around, I'm gonna show you the truth. Welcome back, thanks for joining us. This should be a pretty short video today. There's not a lot of difficulty in this, but there is a lot of confusion if you watch certain people. So there's a lot of different thoughts. And what I've come to learn from planting trees, we've had an orchard at literally every property we've built. We've planted fruit trees, and what I have come to learn from all that different planting and seeing what works and what doesn't work is that there's a lot of stuff that works. So you don't have to be so critical on yourself. You don't have to be so crucial on what you're doing, what is the correct spacing, what is the correct depth. But I'm going to show you the particular things that I have learned today that I pay attention to now when I do this. So first I'll go spacing, because that's the main thing it seems like people worry about. In an orchard, I have heard anywhere between 15 and 25 feet, depending on, what style you're putting in. Is it permaculture, or are you going to plant things between? Are they going to be in a single row that's, beveled up or swaled up, however you want to talk about it? What's the concept that you're going with your orchard? We typically go 15 to 20 based on our spacing of our area. So we pick out a spot, a location. Hey, 15 feet works better here because we're kind of tight, or no, we need to space this out depending on what we want. Are we going to have to mow around them? Are we going to have them in a garden? So if you're not going to mow around them, you can put them in tighter, but you kind of get the point. You got to figure out that spacing. 15 is the closest I ever go, and 25 is usually the furthest I go. You could go further, but it's nice if you're putting them in an orchard to kind of keep them in a compact area. That's usually my thoughts there. The next thing, or I guess it probably would have been the first thing, depending on how you're putting these in, would have been the decision of picking these trees out. So where you get them, do you go to a fancy arborist, a garden store, or do you go to a big box store? I have had the same percentage of death from a $70 orchardist store, arborist that put these trees in, as I have with my TSC trees. So the cheaper trees that are discounted down that I paid 10 bucks for on a sale where they just wanted rid of all of them, same percentage dies. It's always about 10%. And whether that be the way I do it, or whether that be the tree itself, but I have learned as I'm picking them out some certain things I pay attention to. So the first thing that I pay attention to is how I'm going to prune them. Pruning is an experience that will come later after you plant. I usually don't prune as I put in. Some people do. I usually wait the first whole season, just let them go, let them get established, and then the next year I'll prune the way I want the trees to look. That is a whole different video, a whole different lesson on how to prune, and I am not an expert. I pretty much have to watch a YouTube every year before I prune, just to kind of remind myself, but I've done it multiple times. But I know what I'm looking for. So on apple trees, do you want that V look or cone look? So I'm looking at, how does the tree look? Is it going to be easy to prune? Is it weird shaped? Kind of looking at that. But you have to learn how to prune. So maybe it would help before you purchase trees to watch a pruning video on how to prune, and then you'll know what to look for a little bit better as far as shape of the tree. Next thing I'm looking for, which is pretty obvious to most people, it's what most people look for when they're looking at trees, is just the overall health of the tree. Does it have dead limbs? Does it have a dead limb hanging off of it? Are there like spots on it from pestilence? Like if they have a bunch of holes in it from getting eat up with a pest, do they have like a mold or something growing on your leaves? Just looking at the overall health of the tree, but that's usually not where my trees die. And the most important thing I have found to look for as far as health of the tree is hidden by that little tag. And that has been the biggest thing experience-wise that I've learned to check for. So if you buy at a big box store, Lowe's, TSC, Rural King, whatever it would be, you're buying trees and they always have these tags to identify them. They're flowering, they're fruit, whatever they would be, shade trees, right? This is the major issue that I have found when picking trees. If I have a tree die or snap off, it's under what's underneath this tag. So while you're shopping, simply lift this tag up and look for what I'm about to show you. But what's under this tag is the grafting location, typically. So you'll look here. If I have them die or snap off or break, later, 2 years even later, it's usually at that grafting point. There's a poor graft. So most of these trees that are at these big box stores are grafted together, meaning they grow a stump essentially, and then they graft on something to the top of it with a V-cut and a wrap, and there'll be a big knot right here. If it's oozing stuff out, kind of like tree blood, if you want to be really generic there, if it's oozing stuff out, I stay away from it. If it's moist and squishy, I stay away from it. If it has a weird looking, warty looking knot on it, I've learned to stay away from them. Those typically probably aren't too bad, but when you get a perfect looking spot where it was grafted, I can't even tell where this is grafted. It probably was grafted somewhere down low. It has healed very, very well. You can even see up here where they pruned, it's healed very well. So this is a very well healing tree. So that is now what I'm looking for. I planted 12 trees 2 years ago and 3 of them died. 1 of them was due to me, which I'll talk about in a minute. 2 of them though was because they were on discount. I only paid 10 bucks for them, and they had very bad grafting locations, and they both rotted and snapped off at that grafting location. They were bad knots. I didn't notice it until I started planting them because I didn't lift up that little covering there. And so that's been a one thing I've started checking for. I lift that covering up. I don't rip them off, but I lift it up and I check, how is the graft healed? So we've got our tree home. We've selected our location and our spacing, and we've selected our trees at the place using these kind of things. Next, it's simply dig a hole. And some of these videos, they talk about how they dig and what they do. It's all a little bit different. It's pretty easy. It's pretty basic, but I've also made mistakes here that I'll talk about. Hole size, twice the diameter. So if you have a 12-inch pot that they come in, 8-inch pot, you're gonna go twice that, and bigger does not hurt width-wise. Depth, I am consistently, in my youth, putting in trees too deep, and I'm piling the dirt up too high. You do not wanna pile the dirt up past where the pot is already at. Maybe an inch over that. But if you put 4 inches of soil up on that stump that's already out of that pot where it's healed, you can have issues. So I have had to learn, Jared, you don't need them so deep. You don't need such a big hole, and you don't need that fancy humped up hump where mulch and all that stuff goes. Yes, can you put mulch up on the stump? Yes, but dirt, trying to make those things look like landscapers, I don't do that anymore. I try to get the ground pretty close back to level to where it was, and then only my mulch, whether that be bag mulch or old hay or whatever you would put around it to seal that in, that can go a little higher, but no more than 2 inches. Okay, so we're gonna plant our tree in our hole. First thing, you're gonna pull it out of the pot. You can take all the tags off before or after, it doesn't matter, but all these strings and all this stuff does need to come off. So we put it down in the hole, and we set it where we want. We sit back and look at it and decide, is that the location that we want it? We've picked the location here today based off of beauty. This is kind of decorative, right? It's not a production setting. We're a little low on my hole. So my top of my pot is lower than my grass here in this grassy area. So I want to bring it up a little bit. So what I'm going to put in is just some soil, and I'm probably going to put in the top soil that has the grass attached to it and chop that up finally. So we'll do that next, get my height set right. So we're just going to chop this all up just a little bit because it had the grass, but it was the topsoil, it was the cap I took off. This is where I've made the mistake. I always think like you got to have some fancy soils, or you want to put compost, and we make a lot of our own compost here. We have a lot of cattle manure, a lot of pig manure, and I have killed trees like this before, and that's how I killed one 2 years ago. We put in, it composted for a year, cow manure that had some hay and some straw in it. Now we're 100% grass fed, we're clean here, we don't spray any chemicals, we don't use any synthetic fertilizers, we do all that. But we buy straw from another farmer, and we buy hay from other people from time to time. And so we had straw in our bedding. And when I say straw, I'm talking about wheat straw. So typically straw in our area is wheat or rye. They harvest the crop off. The thatch that comes off makes a bale of straw for bedding. If they spray chemicals on their fields on that wheat or rye, it is now in the stem of that. And even though we composted for 6 months, that chemical still came through that straw and that manure that I put in this hole, and it killed that tree. Graze on is something that they put on hay, and it will do the same thing. It has a possibility to, at least. In our hole, we're about an inch, maybe 2 inches above the top of our stump, above the level of our ground, because I do want it to hump up just a hair. And so we're gonna go ahead and start putting soil back in. I talked about what soil not to use. Do I put anything back in? And yes, I do. We will layer this good soil. If you have good soil when you dig in our yard, here is pretty good soil, topsoil. We'll layer that and compost or some kind of a mulch back into it. I don't use a woody mulch like that you would put around your flower beds on the top. I use a potting soil, something organic, or a potting mix. Any of that is fine, but I use bag stuff to be safer for chemicals. Can you put your cow manure, horse manure, stuff like this on these trees later? Yes, but I let them get established 1 year and then I put them in because I have had some death for that. Okay, so we're simply layering back. You can get a shot here down low, and we're going our topsoil and then some potting mix. This is potting mix that we had from our flower beds that we're gonna be redoing, and it's sat here for a year. It's not as nutritious as a brand new bag, but it's good. We're layering that in. Now we're in Southern Ohio. We get a lot of rain here, almost 60 inches a year. So I don't have to worry about a lot of moisture, okay? So we're not putting in a peat moss or stuff to hold moisture around our tree in the first year because we get so much rain. If we went in a drought, would we water? Yes, but I have noticed other people in some of their videos using peat moss, using some kind of a bedding, and they talk about moisture. I think if you're in a high desert or you're in a place that doesn't get a lot of rain, that is something you would add and change to my process. But because of the amount of rain that we get, we don't have to do that here. I don't have to put in a lot of carbon down into the soil. Is some good? Yes. So what would I use? You can use ground up newspapers as long as they're not waxy and they don't have colored ink on them. You can use cardboard. You can use not a pine straw, but like a bedding straw that's bagged, that's organic. You can use anything like that. Old grass clippings and leaves from your yard that came from your yard. If you don't spray chemicals and put fertilizers down, those are also good, but you're putting thin layers of that. Don't put that stuff too thick. You want it, you can even spread it and mix it in between if you want. If you're worried about moisture, that's something you can do. Peat moss is probably the best. It's a little expensive sometimes, but that works best. But we're gonna continue to layer this till we get the level topped off. All right, so our soil, we're not gonna tamp it in tight, but it's there. You can pat it in a little bit. I'm not stomping, I'm tapping lightly. Get it pretty level with what's there. I can still see the top of the pot that it came in. Now, I don't do this all the time. I like a weed barrier, but I don't like weed fabric around trees because they constrict. So you could, if you use Sunbelt fabric or something like that and you're trying to keep weeds out, you can cut a bigger hole, but it needs to be probably 4 to 6 inches in diameter and go around your tree if you're looking for landscaping, you know, weeded stuff. I'm gonna use cardboard today because it will break down over time. It will compost. Our mulch will go right over it. It will be a weed barrier while this tree gets established. And then after that, it becomes food for the tree. So we're gonna put a piece of cardboard down, throw a little bit of soil on top just to kind of hold it down until I can get some mulch that we're gonna put around. And then we'll put a 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch, not going up over our tree. So we'll make sure it stays back from the tree as we put our mulch in. And our tree is in. I want to talk a little bit about starting a farm, starting a homestead, putting trees when your new property. When do I think this is on the priority list? And so for me, when I'm consulting, when I'm talking to other people, I advise they start their orchard very early. Very soon when you get there, it can be one of the very first things that you do as far as growing food. One, you're getting there, you're excited about starting to grow your own food, getting animals, all those things. But a tree takes multiple years to fruit, to produce a food, if that's why you're putting in trees, an orchard. So getting them in, if you wait 5 years to put them in, it's gonna be 8, 10 years at this property before you ever get food off of a tree. Whereas if you put them as soon as you get there, When you start producing and starting to level out your production of your gardens and your animals, the trees are coming right behind that. And that's why I say start trees at the very beginning. It can be one of the very first things you add to your homestead. The second thing is they don't require a lot of maintenance. You don't have to come out and feed and water and take care of these things every day and make sure the gate's shut. They don't run away. So there's not a lot of maintenance with a tree. So you can make a vast improvement to your property right off the bat. In your mind, you've started the process of growing food, but yet it's not taking up a lot of your daily work time. So you can focus on your house, you can focus on building your barn and your fence, and it doesn't take those away as far as daily chores, like cattle or pigs or chickens or anything that requires a daily feeding or a daily monitoring. Those minutes take away from your progress as you start your homestead or farm, and a tree does not do that. Maybe once a week, once a month even, you check on them, water them, those kind of things, look at pests. But for the most part, they just kind of sit here and grow and make your property better. Well, there you have it. I appreciate you guys watching. Like and subscribe if this is your first video. Come along with us. I hope this video helped. I find that people are too critical on themselves when it comes to planting trees. There's too many videos out there that say it has to be done this way. And I have done it 20 different ways and been successful. I have just found a few things that I pay attention to year after year that I have found those have been the mistakes and the faults that I've made over time. So bad manure, bad bedding, chemicals putting them on it that you shouldn't have, those have been mistakes. Finding trees that aren't grafted properly, that aren't healthy trees when you buy them, those are really my two biggest mistakes that I ever make. And then later, as I prune, I have done some bad pruning in my life and either killed trees or stunted trees because of pruning incorrectly, which I said is another video you should check out from somebody who's an arborist who talks about pruning and understands orchards probably a little better than I do. But there you have it. Hope that video helped. Until next time.